This is not 2008. What's coming is much worse, and it has already started. The global financial system is collapsing in front of us, and the G7 countries are making it worse. So in this video, we're going to explain what they're hiding from you and how you need to protect yourself. Because the US financial system is on the path to implode on itself, US debt has soared above a record $37 trillion. And if you go to usdebtclock.org, you can see the US federal spending is over $7.2 trillion. They're only bringing in $5.2 trillion in tax revenue, leaving a federal budget deficit of over $2 trillion, let alone the interest that accrues that needs to be paid. Plus, the US 30 bond yields just hit 5% due to investors' concern and panic. And with core CPI stuck above 3%, M2 money supply now growing at 5.1% annually, the dollar has lost 30% of its value since 2020. And if you look all the way back to 1933, the dollar has just continuously gone down over time. Over the past 5 years, even over the past 10 years, since Bitcoin has been around, you can see Bitcoin compared to the dollar here with this red chart compared to the blue chart, and why the smartest investors in the world have been rotating over to the crypto market over the past few years because of the decline in the value of the dollar. No one can argue with this at this point, and if they do, and they're saving all of their money in cash, they're idiots. It's not that they're dumb people, they're just ignorant and they haven't done enough research. So that's the purpose of today's video, to demystify and to educate the people that don't truly understand what's going on. Because at this pace, the dollar loses bare minimum 25% of its purchasing power every 10 years, and US interest payments are ballooning over $1 trillion annually. So the bubble that's being built right now is going to make 2008, 2000, and even 2020 look like a walk in the park. And if you guys look over at other countries, in the UK, 30-year bond yields just hit 5.64%, the highest since 1998. That's 15x higher than the 2020 lows. So when yields rise, bond prices crash, pensions, banks, and governments holding trillions in bonds, and they start to bleed out. And this directly affects the earning class, just like the 2008 crisis. And it gets much worse because the UK government spending is projected to hit 60% of GDP. Revenues are sinking below 40% of GDP. And by 2050, debt to GDP will explode to over 274%. And interest rates alone are 13% of GDP. So this is a fiscal collapse written into their own forecasts here. So I thought this was a great post from Stern Drew Crypto, because this isn't just the UK. Japan's 30-year yields just broke 3.2% for the first time in history. US 30-year yields are surging to 5%. France is hitting highs not seen since 2011. And the entire G7 bond market is rejecting central banks. Now, you might be wondering, why does this matter for crypto, or why should you care? Well, this is why the current financial system is broken. Central banks printed endlessly and are trapped. And if they cut rates, which if you go to cmegroup.com, in less than 13 days, Jerome Powell is going to come out and give a speech with a 99.4% expectations for him to cut rates in the next couple weeks. And by the 29th of October, over 99% expectations for him to cut rates again. And if they cut rates, inflation is going to surge. And if they raise rates, the debt is going to collapse. And the bond markets are imploding under trillions in debt and leverage. So fiat currencies are losing credibility fast. And this is nothing like 2008. In fact, this is a systemic failure, but at a much larger scale. So what are the central banks in this situation doing? Well, they're deliberately pouring gasoline on the fire, making it worse. The Fed is being forced to cut interest rates despite permanent inflation. Government spending caused the debt to cross $37 trillion. UK is cutting rates to 4%, pouring gasoline on inflation while the debt spirals even higher. So as Robert Kiyosaki has said, I mean, this guy has called for the crash for a while. And obviously, if you keep calling for a crash, at some point you're going to be right. But he's on to something here, because we are now entering stagflation, which is high inflation, low economic growth, and high unemployment. And in times like this, you need to hold assets that appreciate to prevent yourself from being wiped out in the financial reset. So that's why we've seen Bitcoin go up relative to the dollar, other cryptocurrencies as well too. We're seeing gold and silver absolutely explode. For example, gold is broken out to a brand new all-time high into price discovery. And just look at this chart, how vertical gold is going right now. It's very similar to what happened back here leading up to 2011, when gold rallied from all the way down here at 200 something dollars to over $1,900. That's what's happening to gold right now. And so we're seeing the real wealth transfer take place before the Great Reset. A parallel financial system is already being built. And Ripple, XRP, and the XRP ledger are the rails designed for real-time global settlement, liquidity, and trust, the exact opposite of the broken bond system, where the debt-based system is collapsing under its own weight with unsustainable yields, inflation, and fiat erosion. And Ripple's XRP ledger offers a new financial architecture, which is liquidity without leverage, settlement without debt, and trust through transparency. So they're building the rails of the new era. And if you think about it here, instant cross-border settlement, trillions in liquidity unlocked from idle capital, getting rid of Nostro and Vostro accounts to cause massive bottlenecks within the banking industry, a transparent ledger versus opaque debt markets. Even Brad Garlinghouse admitted that Ripple could capture 14% of Swift's liquidity in just 5 years. So ask yourself this question right now. Bonds are collapsing, fiat currencies are eroding, central banks are trapped. Do you really think this system survives the way that it's running right now? Of course it doesn't. It's a ticking time bomb. While the US is leading in crypto and preparing for a new financial system, many countries are going to go bankrupt. So again, this is not comparable to the 2008 or 2000 dot-com bubble boom. This is much bigger. This is the collapse of the entire old system and the rise of a new system where you own the assets of the future or you get left behind. So in today's video, we're going to talk about what happens next. We're talking about inflation. We're talking about the unemployment rate. We're talking about Bitcoin's dominance, what's about to happen next for Bitcoin's price chart, what's happening for XRP's price chart, also XRP's dominance compared to Bitcoin's dominance and what happens every single time we see a rally or a sell-off in Bitcoin's dominance compared to XRP. We also need to talk about others, everything outside of the top 10, Ethereum compared to Bitcoin's dominance as well, and what this means for the entire altcoin market. Because over the past 24 hours, we've seen a short-term pullback of anywhere from 3 to 10%. Over the past month, some projects are down, some projects are doing well. And over the past year, very selective altcoins are up, like XRP up 400%, SUI up 300%, XLM 285%, HBAR 330%, Chainlink over 100%, CRO over 200%, and a wide variety of other projects that are up because clearly as the dollar goes down in value on the macro and cryptocurrencies go up, there's great opportunities to long and short the market at specific times, but you need to know what to look for because on the macro here, you guys can see over time what the Fed has done with interest rates. And zooming in over the past 5 years, we've been paused since January of 2025 going sideways. And so when the effective federal funds rate is high like this, it's obviously very expensive for loans where banks charge this interest rate on overnight loans. Businesses come in, they need money. If you want to do a mortgage rate on your house, it's a lot more expensive to pay your mortgage. So most people can't really afford a home right now compared to getting one back in 2021 to 2022 when interest rates were beneath 1%. And the Fed has been waiting for inflation to get under control for them to lower rates again. So over the past 3 years, you guys can see inflation has been beneath 3%. Up in January 2025, it was up to 3%, and then it stayed between 3% and 2.3%. The past couple months, it's been 2.7%. So at this point, Jerome Powell realizes they're not going to get this back down to 2% at the current rate. So at this point, they're trapped. So that's why the CME Fed Watch tool is expecting a 99% chance of him to drop rates in the next meeting. So he'll most likely drop it by 25 basis points. And then depending on what he says, we'll see if he drops it by 25 or 50 basis points by the October meeting. So we're about to see a melt up of epic proportions here in terms of liquidity flowing into risk on assets. And we're seeing gold lead the charge right now alongside silver. So will Bitcoin follow? I think it will. And I think that'll lead into altcoins as the interest rates start to drop here. But that will lead to something breaking in the markets that you need to be ready for. So let's talk about it. Because the unemployment rate right here is still relatively low. If we look over the past 5 years, you can see from the low here in April of 2023 at 3.4, we've been slowly climbing up and we're at 4.2, but we haven't seen anything like what we saw happen in COVID, let alone if we click on max during these periods where the unemployment rate drastically spiked. So it's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when the unemployment rate spikes back up again. And these darker gray areas are periods that were marked as recessions. And each recession is marked during the periods where this spike up happens in unemployment. So it's like the calm before the storm here. And we don't know the exact day, we don't know the exact month, but at some point this will happen. And I'm going to revisit this video and you're going to thank me for preparing you for this because when this happens, that's when the crash will happen. Now, in the meantime, we do have something to look forward to because right here, Benjamin Cowan posted this talking about Bitcoin's dominance, saying it's likely going to rally until early November.